So in true Wings fashion, my run of show notes, the printer wouldn't work. So I'm gonna do what I always do, is wing it. So you can all just bear with Nikki and I. But we're up to almost 70 participants. So I'm gonna suggest we get started because we have a lot packed into what I thought was going to be a long hour, but it feels like it's going to be really super packed. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's joining in to celebrate this milestone, because it kind of hit me at the end of December that, oh my God, we were five years old now as Wings Metro. And there were so many people who played a major role in making this happen. First and foremost, you, Mayor Emanuel, with everything that you did to get the initial 1.8 million for us. And I'll tell some more of those stories in just a moment. But I did want to point out that if at the top right corner, there's a button called View. You can change the view to gallery, or if you want to just see the person speaking, you can change it to whatever works for you. I will also warn you, we are going to try to show some videos of the garden dedication, some other things. And Nikki and I practiced this, but we all know how technology works. So if we have some glitches, just hang with us. We'll do our best. And we have several different people who are going to be speaking, and I see Nina Mariano and Carol DeFrisco there to honor not just the people who are here, but those who are part of this process and this project who we lost along the way. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Don played a huge role in opening so many doors for us through the project and since then, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But again, just to thank all the sponsors and the donors and everybody who just is participating. And if you want to see more people that you can't see on the screen that's up now, you can click the button on the right, the arrow button, and click over and see the faces of others who are on the call. So I want to start with just really how this all began. And so I'm going to have Nikki cue up this first video, which is the media coverage of the groundbreaking, which was in November of 2013. Mayor Emanuel picked the coldest day of the year for us to have an outside groundbreaking. And some of you know who our special surprise guest was that Mayor Emanuel brought to the party. But I'll let you see here. And it does cut off abruptly because it is media coverage that ironically goes into the potential candidates for the 2016 election. So, Nikki?
I know it's a little cold, but a warm welcome to the Vice President.
On this very cold day, Vice President Joe Biden is in Chicago, visiting the location where a new domestic violence shelter will be built on West 63rd Street.
No man, under any condition, other than self-defense, has a right to raise his hand to a woman.
The cost of this new shelter, half of it, nearly $2 million, will come from the city's settlement in a lawsuit with the VIP Gentlemen's Club. For those who have turned to Wings, Women in Need Growing Strong, word of expanding the first domestic violence shelter in 10 years is certainly good news.
Wings gave me a safe place to stay for me and my children. They also restored hope and confidence.
That's where it cut off, because we didn't want you to have to hear about all of the election stuff. But it is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see who they were talking about, we're going to be the candidates for the Democratic primary. It's really interesting to take a step back in history. I want to take a moment, before I have Mayor Emanuel speak, to also thank all of our board of directors, our leadership councils, and our amazing staff. They have worked so hard in this 5 years and long before that. And we're going to highlight a few of them who are key members of this process. But Mayor Emanuel, do you want to say anything?
I really, from Amy and I, as you know, Amy's on the board, and want to just thank Wings and all the people that work there, volunteer there, everybody that's part of creating, truthfully, a family for those that have a broken family and are trying to assemble. And most importantly, for all the mothers and who have children. And the hardest step is that first step out, because you're thinking about your children. And really the credit goes to what Wings does in creating a safe, literally a safe place for all these individuals. And one of the things I learned as mayor, calls on domestic violence are either number 1, 2, or 3 any time of the year. And the city hadn't added a single bed in over a decade, even though the volume of work, unfortunately, had dramatically increased. And the reason I asked Joe Biden there, beyond being a friend and everything, he and I first got to know each other when I was a staff person for President Clinton, and he had introduced the violence. What he says his proudest moment was passing the Violence Against Women's Act. And it was the first time you had federalized any crimes for in any way of violence against any woman. Joe Biden and I started working together, made that part of the bill that passed the 94 crime bill. And there's a little just desserts there. The 1.8 million came from the fact that we had sued a gentleman's club for back taxes, $1.8 million. And I thought that would be the perfect way, rather than just going into the big black hole known as the city budget, but to dedicate those resources to opening the first new shelter in over a decade. And so to Wings and to everybody that's part of Wings in any different way, I just want to say on behalf of the city, thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you. And it has been a fun story. We always tell, where the money came from initially, but also for you all to know that the city also gave us an old police department building and adjacent land for $1. So we were able to, forego the cost of property. We have our co-chairs and our media past president on this call. And I wanted to see if John, Rita, who's been a chair of Wings and they've been involved with Wings longer than me, close to 25 years. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity to say a few things.
Rita, you're on mute.
You have to start over. Such is the day of COVID, when you're on mute and you're frozen, are the common phrases of the day. And now they're frozen.
Can we get somebody's 12-year-old over to the Cannings right away to troubleshoot?
We can't get off the mic.
There you are. Now you are. You are. We hear you.
Can you hear? Okay.
Yes, you're there. Start over, Rita.
All right, well, I'll be quick. First of all, I wanted to say hi to everybody and thank you for coming to our party. But 5 years ago, when Wings was first looking at this project, it was very easy for John and I to make the decision to financially support it. First of all, as Mayor Emanuel just pointed out, there was a tremendous need for additional beds for domestic violence. Secondly, the mayor provided an opportunity that we would have been nuts to pass up. And finally, Wings had already successfully run our domestic violence shelter out here in the burbs. So we knew they would do a great job. So it's like the stars all lined up, and that is one reason we decided to financially support it.
And I just want to say, when I heard Ram was behind it and was its biggest sponsor, I knew it was going to get done. I've known Ram through many parts of his career, congressman, chief of staff for the president, investment banker. When he gets behind something, it gets done. So you thanked Wings for what they do, Ram. I think Wings owes you a debt of gratitude for what you did.
Definitely.
Thank you. Doesn't look like the weather changed at all.
That's true.
Yeah. It's actually even colder than it was this day. 5 years ago today that we cut all the ribbons, and you remember we did them inside, and I'm going to show you the video in just a minute. But to talk, as John was saying, about what it takes, to get something like this done. First, you have to have the leadership of the city behind you to make it happen. And this was a very complicated project because the money was given to the Department of Family and Support Services. And I know Jennifer Welch was going to be on here. Say something, Jennifer, and see if you pop up to the front screen. No, she's gotten on yet.
I'm here.
There she is. Jennifer Welch was the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Family and Support Services. And Wings didn't even know about the opportunity, the request for proposals. It went to city agencies, of which we were not one yet. But Metropolitan Family Services, and I know Lori Cedio, who's the Executive Director for Metropolitan down here on the Southwest side, is on the call too. She and her staff reached out to Wings through our partnerships through the Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence and asked if we'd be interested in putting in an application for this. And they pulled in Greater Southwest Development Corporation. We have Tina James and Adrian Soto on the call with us. And the three agencies within 3 weeks put together what we felt was a you can't say no to this offer kind of proposal, because it was so different and so state of the art. Knowing that we were going to have to raise more money than the initial money, but also knowing that we had backers like the Cannings and the Foglias, and then we ultimately secured Verizon and got support from the Bears, helped us with the playground, and just started to putting it all together. But it wasn't easy, and there were ended up being weekly calls with Jennifer, her staff from DPD. Carrie Steinbuck is on the call. She was a big part of this project. People from the mayor's office, and Ram, you may not even know this, and I see Lawrence is on here as well. But every department from the city came together, and Wing staff, Greater Southwest, Metropolitan, we were on a call every Friday for 2 years. And it didn't matter where you were in the world, you had to be on that call to update where we were with construction, where we were with all the components with the fundraising. And then many of you may not remember, those of us who are trying to do this project quickly, we ran into 2014 was the coldest winter in history for Chicago. So Power Construction, along with UJAMA, worked on this with Greater Southwest. The building that the city had given us through that very cold winter, if the temperature was above zero, which there are many days that it was not, they were inside the old police department building, gutting it, getting out contaminants and those sorts of things. So I know Jimmy, the CEO, is on this call, and Ken Gorman, who's with Power, is now on our board also. So you can see, Ram, there was a lot of momentum and snowball and people getting more involved with Wings and Metropolitan and Greater Southwest. So it was just a phenomenal effort. And even so much as everybody helping each other with the fundraising aspect. I remember one day I got a call from Jennifer. She said that City Hall had received a call from Dominic DeFrisco. And I didn't know who Dominic DeFrisco was. Most people in Chicago do know who Dominic DeFrisco is. And so he had called because his client, Art Van Furniture, was moving into the Chicago market, and they were looking for a high profile project to contribute product to. And of course, whoever answered the phone at City Hall immediately said, it's Wings, and Greater Southwest and Metropolitan are doing this state-of-the-art project that is really the mayor's baby. So if you want to get attention, this is it. And so from the very first day that I met Dominic at his booth at Jean and Giorgetti, he introduced so many. Yeah, you know what booth I'm talking about, Ralph. And there's now his picture hanging above that sacred booth. But just a generous man who, he would call me and say, Rebecca, come down here. I want you to meet this person. Let's see what they can do for Wings. And he did that a lot, to the point that my staff were like, why are you at Jean and Giorgetti's all the time? I'm like, that's where I'm meeting people. And I know Tony Romanucci is on the call. He was one of those people that I got to meet through Dominic. And so we did honor him at an event called Voices of Courage as, men in the movement. And certainly, Ram, you're one of those men, and John Canning and all the men on this call. So, I truly appreciate everything that he did. And Art Van continued to donate furniture to Wings up until last year, when they went out of business, and allowed us to sell that furniture at our stores. So, you just never know how those connections are going to play out and just carry over through time. I also know, Nikki, you can go back to the gallery, that we have our Jenner and Block on the call, Lynn Grayson. Jenner has done our legal work for us pro bono for almost 20 years, and that's due to Lynn Grayson. And she's an environmental attorney, and so she never could find things. She introduced us to Ron Grace and Kristen Boyke over there to help us with all of the bazillions of legal documents that had to be put together for this partnership to happen, and with the city and with the bank and everybody who was involved. Lynn finally got her chance to help us when we had an environmental issue on the land that we needed help with getting to the Illinois EPA. And most of those things take 6 months, and she helped us get through it in 2 weeks. So that helped to keep the project going. And I also know on the call, there's another interesting story that Rita and John know. The architects were Papa George Haynes, and Brian Kidd, who's on this call as well, did the initial drawings for the project, and then it was handed over to a woman named Laura Sargent. So I meet Laura Sargent, and I don't know, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, I'm picking up Rita to go to a lunch meeting, and she says, "Do you know that my son John is dating a woman named Laura who says that she's the architect on the Wings project?" Laura and John are married now and have a child together. So those are the kinds of partnerships that came out of this project. So you just never know. And there's so many people I need to give shout outs to. And so I just want, everybody to know how much your efforts meant. But we had 3 staff who really, Denise being one of them, Denise Urban, our CFO, she was on those calls every week. And, I think we made her head spin many times and made her crazy because this was such a messy deal from a legal and financial standpoint. And then Matt Bauman was our board president at the time. And when many people thought we were crazy for doing this, he fully got behind it and was also, as a volunteer in his spare time, we're on these calls every Friday. And I wanted to give him a chance just to say a few words.
Nothing like following Rebecca in a presentation. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for pointing that out. And I was really honored at the end of the day to play, a small role in such an impactful project for the city, and especially for our survivors. And you start thinking about how incredibly important this project is, and all the partners, as you've mentioned, who were part of this project, and how complicated it was. You've already pretty much named many of the folks that we were so lucky to be partnered with in this project. And particularly, on our board, we had, Jim Lennon and Mary Anderson and Michael Hedrick, Diana Casas. I mean, these folks all got behind it. It took a little bit of, arm wrestling, but they eventually got behind the project and really helped us kick it off. And, you look at all the components of a very complex development like this, and everything from the initial application to the construction and the environmental issues and the capital campaign, and poor Denise having to learn what a new market tax credit is and really get involved in that. I can't even imagine the amount of time that was spent just in that particular area alone. But, you get down to it and you get to that ribbon cutting and you feel pretty darn great. And, and along the way, I get to meet Mayor Emanuel and Mr. McCaskey, look behind me. I've got nothing but Bears paraphernalia all over my wall. And so, I'm just really, really humbled and honored to be a part of this. And one person who really, when it was all said and done, when Versanet spoke about this, if that didn't bring you to tears, I don't know what will. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to the staff, Rebecca and Denise and Latanya and everybody that was involved in this. It was really a truly remarkable project. Thanks for letting me say something.
So there were a lot of great stories, and I could tell them to you all night, and some of my support staff have heard them over and over again. I'm not going to tell the next story. I'm going to let the video tell you the next story of the very special thing, I don't know what else to call it, phenomena that happened on this project. Go ahead, Nikki.
So thank you everyone for coming out on this blustery October day as we celebrate Domestic Violence Awareness Month with a very, very special occasion. These young people standing next to me are the children of Brenda Sexton, who was a police officer who worked in the building that you're standing next to, who lost her life to domestic violence 15 years ago. Brenda was, as all the officers here who worked with her can attest, a vivacious, wonderful woman who was taken from the police force and from these children far too early. They were young children when they lost their mother, and they've had to grow up without her, and that's not an easy thing to do. When we asked the city to give us this building, this old police department building and the adjacent land, we didn't know about Brenda. And after we got it, our first thought was we would just knock the building down and build all new construction, when Commander McNaughton called me and told me about Brenda. And we knew then we could not take this special place from her and her legacy. We met with the kids and we asked them if they would allow us to do this garden in her memory, and they were very happy that we were doing so. I present to you the Brenda Sexton Memorial Fountain.
Why does she stay? Every day, women search for an answer to this much too frequently asked question when they are assaulted or beaten, which occurs every 9 seconds in the United States. Leslie Morgan Steiner, a former victim of domestic violence and current accomplished author, defined domestic violence as a psychological trap disguised as love. In Steiner's speech, Why Domestic Abuse Victims Don't Leave, she answers two of the most difficult questions for victims. Why did I stay? And why didn't I leave? The answer is clear, said Steiner. I didn't know I was being abused. I saw myself as a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man. It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser. The question I have been struggling to answer since I decided to speak today is nowhere near as difficult. What does the garden mean to me? My answer became very clear when I stopped thinking about myself and began contemplating what the garden could do for others. The garden should be a place where women can go to in order to find answers to the troubling questions in their own lives. The garden should be a place where women feel safe in their own thoughts and opinions. I never knew my mother, but from what my family has told me about her, I can tell that she was a very strong and outspoken woman. I know my mother would have wanted the garden to be a place where women can go to find self-worth. To me, not only is the garden a safe haven, a place women can feel loved, respected, and valued when they fail to find these feelings in their everyday lives, but a place of recovery. After acknowledging the issue, the second step to recovery is to find a solution, which I truly believe can be obtained when women contemplate their issues in the garden. In conclusion, I would like to thank Rebecca Darr, everyone working with Wings, and all the people who helped me answer the questions in my life, and I hope the garden is a place women can find answers to their own questions. After all, I wholeheartedly believe that there are two types of hurt and suffering that these women have encountered and endured in their lives. The one that hurts you, and the one that shapes you and helps you become a better person. It's their job to decide which their abuser has instilled in their lives. Thank you.
There's really not much left to say. And just know that she's looking upon all of you and knows that every day you carry a little bit of her with you. She'd be immensely proud of every one of you. So thank you for sharing this with us.
So I'd like to introduce the nice story about Brenda. Her middle name is Lee, and now if her children or young adults are having babies, and whether the baby is a boy or girl, their middle name is Lee. So I just thought that was special. But one of her sons, Gino, I want him to tell you what he's chosen to do with his life. Gino, you're on mute.
Hey, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, thank you for, again, having my family on this call and your support for Wings. And not only that, but carrying on my mother's memory and her life and her legacy. And the first set of business I would like to address is Mr. McCaskey. Russell Wilson would look great in the Bears jersey. It's a little food for thought. But on a serious note, what I decided to do with my life is growing up, my mother was my role model. My whole entire life, as she took care of 5 kids on her own. A single mother, 5 kids who wanted to find somebody who can love her as much as she loved everybody else. And that's something that she never found. And with that, what I did was I decided that I'm going to follow in her footsteps, that I'm going to go carry on her legacy. I'm going to carry on her name. And I decided to become a Chicago police officer. And with that, I was fortunate enough to graduate the academy. And then afterwards, I was blessed enough to not only be a Chicago police officer, but I was placed in the same district where she used to work at as well, where I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of officers that she worked with and meet a lot of people that hit me, where I realized that she's not forgotten and that they carry on her memory with her every day. And one thing that I did take to heart was what my brother Morgan said, was that it's not about us. We have to stop thinking about ourselves and what does the garden mean? What does Wings mean to everybody else? What can it do? And with that, I realized that being on the department and now being part of the domestic violence unit, I have the opportunity to do so much more. I have the opportunity to reach out to victims and their families. I have the opportunity to give them the resources, which the biggest obstacle we come across is women who fall victim to domestic violence, is a shelter, which is what Wings gives them. And that is why I'm so happy, and the city is so fortunate enough to have Mayor Rahm Emanuel being able to supply or grant the funds to initially get Wings started, while we have Rebecca Dar and we have Nikki and we have everybody that supports Wings and what they do to continue on the fight for domestic violence, or to end domestic violence. And I am proud to say that right now, at this point in my life, I've carried on my mother's footsteps, and I'm now in a better position to further assist victims, to further assist somebody else, a mother who has children, who's trying to better herself. And so there's nobody else out here. So we don't have another press conference or a new news story or article. And so that nobody else has to stand up there, as my family have done multiple times, or how other families have done, and have to talk about the loss of a loved one due to domestic violence. And I'm very fortunate to be able to be in that position. And again, I cannot thank you guys enough. Wings, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, and everybody else who stands behind not only my family, but the families of the rest of the victims, to help end this fight for domestic violence. Again, thank you guys very much, and we cannot show you our appreciation enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino. Thank you. So now I'm going to read, George, from my script, what I was approved to say. Wings is truly grateful to the Chicago Bears, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome playground. We have the chairman of the Bears, George McCaskey, here with us to say a few words about why it was important for them to get involved.
Rebecca, thank you for sticking to the script. And by way of explanation, I just emphasize to Rebecca that it wasn't anything that I did. It was something that the Bears did collectively. And that's why we were poring over that introduction to make sure that the message wasn't confused. But so glad to be included in this celebration. Gino, thank you so much for sharing your story. Wow, that is an incredible tribute to your mom. So congratulations and thank you. We were delighted to be involved in the Wings project. We were involved in a little bit of the, I don't know if it was demo or rehab. Darla Swango knows, she was there. And to see what that space became was just extraordinary, and a tremendous tribute to the good work that Wings does. Rebecca said to us, hey, we'd like the Bears to be involved. How about you guys getting behind the playground? And we said, well, that's a great idea. You know, the way it was explained to us is everyone knows, especially in this pandemic, kids need to get outside at some point, and they need to get out of their mother's hair at some point. But moms in general, and especially in these sensitive situations, want to be able to keep an eye on them at all times. So to have a playground space that was right next to the building and fenced in and enclosed and safe for child and parent was extremely important. So We were on board from the beginning. Our only concern that we expressed to Rebecca is so often the playground equipment is a green and yellow color scheme, and all the research shows that's bad for kids. It's bad feng shui, it's bad biorhythms, it's bad everything else. And we said, you know, we want to be involved, but how are we going to overcome that obstacle? And Rebecca said, well, how about a blue and orange color scheme? And we said, well, that can work for us. So we were happy to be involved in one of the many ribbon cuttings on that cold day, and glad we moved it inside after the playground got unveiled. So keep up the good work and bear down.
Can I tell them the story real quick about the hard hat?
Sure.
So George and Ted Phillips and all the main office from Hallis and from Soldier Field came out to paint and do some other things. And the manager that was overseeing the project from Ujamaa had ordered the hard hats. And when we opened the box after everybody was here, they were green. And George looked at me and he goes, Rebecca, I'm not wearing a green hard hat. And I said, no, you're not. So I took the hard hat off the project manager's head and gave it to George and said, you'll wear Ujamaa today. And when he came out, we painted his hard hat. We painted a green hard hat white so that he would have a normal hard hat and not a green hard hat. And his signature is downstairs on the wall that he painted. So if you're ever here at Rings Metro and you want to see it, it's on the wall in the basement. So I'd like to go ahead, Nikki, and have you show the ribbon cutting. And then we're going to go into LaTanya Walker is going to introduce a video that our current staff who've been here for 5 years did. But since the ribbon cutting was exactly 5 years ago today, I'd like her to go ahead and play that for us.
It goes without saying that to do something this big and this beautiful isn't just one person or one group of people. It really took the whole city to make this happen.
This is the first domestic violence shelter in the city of Chicago in over a decade. Yes, wow. It's the #1 phone call to 911. So our police respond more to domestic violence issues than any other issue, yet as a city, we had not opened a new bed or a new facility in over a decade.
Make an impact on domestic violence. It's a serious problem. It's not going to be an easy fix, but we wanted to make a difference, do what we could to address the problem. We help support the playground. I like the color scheme, navy and orange. That's the way it should be. Unlike so many that you see, you know, green, yellow, that's not so good. It's bad for the kids. A mother or a girlfriend is trying to take their first step out of all that hurt to healing and hope. They have to think beyond themselves.
that you see on the walls here is mine. There's a couple of pieces, the tinier ones, the little heart ones. Some of those are from are products of some workshops that I've been facilitating. I am a graduate of the WINGS program. I lived here in Chicago. It was 8 years ago. My kids at the time were 8 and 10, and I needed a place to go. But in hindsight, I think that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. My kids now are 18 and 16. They're doing extremely well. My son's on his way to college. I was here when there was nothing but gravel on the ground, so it's so awesome to like see this come together and be a part of it. Yeah.
So before LaTanya speaks, we have a special guest, another special guest. You saw Versanet at the groundbreaking. Prior to that, she was at the initial press conference where Mayor Emanuel spent a full hour talking with survivors and ended up having them do some of the announcements of the grant. And so Versanet is an awesome, amazing human being. She is an author. She is an artist, and I've asked her to say a few words. So, Versanet.
Am I successfully unmuted?
You are successfully unmuted.
Awesome. So, hey, everybody, happy 5 years. I'm so emotional and just so floored at what happens when people come together for a cause bigger than all of us. In the last few days, I was trying to figure out what I should say. Like, what could I say that I haven't said already? And most of you have heard my story. If not, I'm sure it's on a video somewhere. But I was fortunate enough to really sit down and take a breath this morning, and a poem came to me. So I'd like to just share that with you. And I feel like it kind of really encapsulates everything that I feel about the culmination of this project. From the dust and gravel, we shaped possibilities and hope. Molded from broken dreams seeming too destitute to end, we win for those women and men too wounded to fight. In light of their struggles, we trouble the waters for them to walk on, crossing paths with divine alignment. The time is always now, ever ripe with opportunities to bring more light to the darkness, to lift up from circumstance with the chance to soar beyond closed doors, to rise with an indelible brilliance and incredible resilience. We lead the resistance. Insisting that this violence cease and desist, we persist where most give up. Lifting up the forgotten to be heard, their voices are inspiration. A demonstrative meditation, so still, so holy, so profound, yet so close we can reach out and grasp the sound of healing. So
that was beautiful.
Thank you. And I just want to say one update I can share is that Khalil and Masada are now 21 and 23. So it's really funny hearing myself say that they were once 8 and 10 because I have no idea who those little kids were anymore. And they're doing really well. So thank you.
Thank you. So now I'd like to bring back LaTanya. I say bring back because last year she had an opportunity to be an executive director at another agency. And so I asked her if she would come back and say a few words. It was really all of her heavy lifting that got the staff hired and the program started. And I'd like her to say a few words and then we'll show the staff video.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good evening, everyone. So I'm really happy to be here. We started this venture with a vision to provide safety and support and to create a net that hadn't been cast in the city for over a decade. Not only did we do that, we actually became a community. WINGS Metro became a family. The community opened its arms to us. We were given office space in order to do interviews, and everyone taught us about all the cool restaurants on 63rd Street. The team at WINGS Metro came together from the beginning. it really was like a puzzle that just fit. Each individual brought something unique. One cooked well, one was very organized, one was savvy with technology, and everyone had a heart to see the greatness in everyone. 5 years ago, their eyes were bright and eager, partnered with nervous energy. And as with anything new, there were challenges. There were challenges with the phones, there were challenges with locks, but we chose to keep persevering. The staff on one of their first calls, the call was dropped. And I can recall Lisa being so nervous and worried about this caller. Unfortunately, that caller was able to call back and come into shelter. What I found over the last 5 years is that there's nothing that this team can't do. They solve problems, they negotiated, they're extremely creative, and they serve the city of Chicago well. I'm honored to have brought on such a dynamic team, and even more proud that after 5 years, the same staff are with us today. The motto was then and continues to be all hands on deck. So please join me as we hear from some of our staff.
Hello, I'm Lisa, and I'm a family advocate at Wings Metro.
Hi, I'm Carlene. I'm the senior manager at Wings Metro.
Our first intake was a mother and her 5-day-old son.
It was February 14th, Valentine's Day.
I was excited that we were able to make her feel safe and support her in the starting of her next chapter of her life.
The Metro team spirit was born. Staff who were not scheduled to work came in to be part of a monumental occasion. Latanya Walker, our director, cheered us on as we completed our first intake. We've done so much that we can be proud of during the last 5 years here. One thing especially is hiring a male bilingual house advocate.
Hi, I'm Jose. I'm a male bilingual house advocate. I'm happy to be a male staff member at Wings Metro. I started my role at Metro 2 months after the grand opening. I'm continually amazed by the assurance of clients who come in here to provide a better life for themselves and their children.
Our first male intake was in March of 2016, and after he was accepted, we were catapulted into receiving calls not only from Illinois male residents, but from male residents from out of state, like New York, Minnesota, Indiana, and more.
Having a safe shelter in the metro area that is accessible by public transportation makes a huge difference for our survivors.
We've been able to connect with other agencies in the area, and they've been so grateful to have our shelter in the neighborhood to provide additional support, services, and resources.
I remember a mother who came to stay at the shelter. Because her family was so big, we gave her the largest room filled with items that would keep her and her family comfortable. She asked what she owed us and couldn't believe when we answered nothing at all. She told me that she had waited until the last minute to arrive because of all the horror stories she had heard about shelters and being afraid of exposing her children. Later on, she told me that once they had settled in their room, she bursted into tears because the shelter was so much more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. I have so many ideas for the future. I would love to see a culinary training program where guests can get on-site cooking training with a focus on nutrition and eventually sit for their state certification.
What I hope to see in the next 5 years is that we keep doing what we do best, which is helping every survivor that walks through our doors.
I know that in the next 5 years, we'll be able to assist more survivors to live a life free of violence.
But ultimately, what I want to see is an end to domestic violence. Is that really asking for too much?
Yeah, those staff have been with us for 5 years, and it's just a testament to Carlene's leadership and Latanya's hiring, and it's helped us to grow the organization and to grow the board. And we are looking to do even more in the city of Chicago. We just got a grant to house 50 families with rapid rehousing, and we're just going to continue to help more and more families everywhere that we can. And I would like to ask Elaine Sample-Rather, who is our other co-chair. She's been on our board for 13 years, and she just took the co-chair role last year. She's doing a phenomenal job, and then we'll wrap it up. So Elaine?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see everybody. Boy, you know, what a celebration, but I do know one thing. There's 92 participants here on this call. And if all 92 plus of us were in a room celebrating right now, it would be one crazy party. I miss seeing all of you. Laura, I miss seeing you on the runway. Versanet, miss seeing you and your family on the dance floor at our events. But it is great to see all of you. John said earlier that, you know, we had a tremendous need, and we still have a tremendous need. Everybody here on this screen, everybody part of this celebration, can't do it without you. There are women who need the hope, support, they need the chance. And 5 years ago, the city of Chicago opened up that chance for them. They opened up that hope and support. And in light of Valentine's Day, you know, in addition to receiving all of that from Wings and all of us here, it's, you know, giving them the love. And so it is great to see everybody. Thank you for being here. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy 5-year anniversary. Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. And we did it. I was so worried we would not make it within our time frame, and we did it. I'll just ask Mayor Emanuel, is there any parting words that you want to share?
I think, look, first of all, it's amazing that it's been 5 years. And to everybody on this phone, this is a day in and day out struggle. We all know that. And let's just see, and let's set a goal for ourselves 5 years that we can make sure that families stay whole, that other parents, mothers specifically, can see children grow up and go to college and become the adults they've always envisioned, and work through that sacrifice. And to all the families that have shared their stories, to take your personal pain and make some public good out of it, I want to thank you for your perseverance.
Well, again, thank you all for being here tonight. I see a lot of our leadership council and board members and longtime supporters, you know, and certainly see Pasquale finally showed up there. Good to see you, my friend. And as Elaine said, I look forward to things opening up again, and we can have our maybe we can get together in Dominic's booth for some lunch soon. And, you know, I just can't say thank you all enough. And I see Sheila King smiling. You know, she's the reason that Wings has so much publicity in this project in particular. So thank you all for taking part, and I hope you enjoy your evening. And I guess we'll be back in another 5 years, because we're not stopping this important work. So thank you all for being here, and have a really awesome night, and happy Valentine's Day.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Great job.